I want you to tell all your friends about me. I'm Media Delta, and this is Batman 1989. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Media Delta. Got a bit of a doozy this time. Kind of a very big property. Um, pretty while ago, we took a look at the NES game Batman, which means that we now can talk about the movie that it was based off of, which was the 1989 Batman. And I have a feeling that this is going to evolve kind of into a discussion of the entirety of Batman, which is, let's just say, a big franchise. So, I was not the only one who watched this movie. Please introduce yourself in alphabetical order.
Hi, I'm Axe, and I'm here to ask, where are the drugs coming from?
Yep.
I am Carnival.
I'm Norman Rafferty, and I never rub another man's.
I'm Torpid Typus, and I've danced with the devil in the pale moonlight.
Yes. So, just to kind of get my experience with this out of the way, the only Batman movies that I saw in theaters were Batman and Robin, and Batman, the one that had Val Kilmer in it, which I forgot. I get Forever. Though I get Returns and Forever mixed up, but also I kind of hate superhero movies, like
Same.
with a burning fiery passion.
Same.
So it's just
Well,
superhero
like
stuff in general. So
Well, like a
It's
handful
me,
of them
the
that are
center.
good.
yeah,
The wrong one. No.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of went in this with. I mean, I had heard the reputation of this that people really liked this movie when it came out, so I was kind of expecting something like go really good. And well, I mean, we'll see. I don't want to like
Tipping your
say
hand
that-
early, Lolo.
Yeah, I don't want to say that in a way that it's going to be like, oh, it's going to be trash. Like, no, but we have some things to discuss.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we're going to have a lot of discussions with Young. So why don't we just go ahead and start with this question? So, Axe, what was your general impressions? Are there any particular elements you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, so let's kind of put this into perspective real quick. I checked on IMDb. There's about 55 Batman films spread across live action and animated. All right. Of those films, 5 we could arguably say are the most known and liked. That would be Mask of Phantasm, Batman 66, Batman Returns, The Dark Knight, and this film. So that's a huge thing that this film sits within the top 5 of 55 films, right? And watching this, I can understand exactly why people like it so much, because it is a mixture. If you were to look at the films as a whole, including the Nolan trilogy, you've got characters that sort of sit between, like, say, like Nicholson sits kind of between Romero's Joker and Ledger's Joker. He's this anarchic goofball, but he's also, quite evil. You've got, you got Michael Keaton. You've got Lando Calrissian, just a part of it, and then you've got these glorious, gorgeous sets. Just all the sets look fantastic, and then you've also got some really bad green screen work. I know that's going to get brought up at some point. But it's 2 hours of a really good superhero film. It's just the right amount of cheese and just the right amount of serious, and it really captures the essence of Batman, for better and worse. Because, and I wanted to bring this up, and this is the perfect time to do it, the Batman franchise hates people with mental illnesses. And this movie explicitly goes into that. So much so that Burton himself promoted this movie as 2 disturbed individuals going after one another. So it very much goes into how much the franchise really just disrespects people with mental illness and sees them as criminal, basically, or dangerous. So like I said, it hits when it goes into like the stuff that makes the Batman series interesting. It's really good, and then when it goes into stuff that isn't quite so good, it stands out pretty well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like one of the key things that if you think about the like the video, like I guess the Arkham series that I guess you'd call it. I mean, it's named after Arkham Asylum.
The
Like-
only institution in all of Gotham. And you know what kind of institution it is? A criminal institution. So the only place where people with mental illness can go is literally a place for fucking criminals. Like, it's not even being subtle.
No, it's not. And I bet this also has to do with the granted, it's not like it's been helped in any point in the last however many years. I mean, Batman originated is it the 30s or the 40s?
30s. Bob Kane. Let me look up the exact date, but Batman was originally created by Bob Kane
And Bill Finger, who has gotten
Bill
posthumous
Finger.
credit.
Thank you.
And he first appeared in Detective Comics, and he was just strictly
Yes,
he was
Detective
just
Comics.
he was an investigator. He wasn't, he didn't have a lot of the stuff that later came.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
he had the moniker, what was like the Great Detective or whatever.
The world's greatest detective.
Greatest detective.
That
Yeah.
he
Yes.
never shook for some reason, despite not being relevant for fucking decades.
But
Yeah,
yes,
he-
Batman first appeared in Detective Comics issue number 27 with the cover date of May 1939 with the release date of March 30th, 1939.
And in this film, he does zero detective work. None. Absolutely none.
Yeah.
And that just like, it's so interesting to me how different this Batman is from the original.
That's because of a good old case of too many cooks.
Yeah, because the thing that I want to see, like, why you have this, like, I'm sure that the whole, like, I mean, I'll just call it a hatred of, people with illnesses. Yeah, I mean, this
pores.
thing's been right, and the pores.
And poor, yeah.
So yeah, this has been going on for a while, and I take it that kind of hasn't been shook.
No.
But yeah, this thing has also been going on for God knows how many years. And you just have had so many different writers dealing with this thing, so many different tones that it just feels like, and it's one of those things, like, it's been going on for so long that you kind of can't shake it at this point.
I mean, you look at some of the most famous storylines, The Killing Joke. It's literally about the Joker trying to mentally break Gordon, Commissioner Gordon. And again, it comes down to mental illness is bad, mental breaks are bad, and you're a garbage person if you have any of these issues. The other one is, the Arkham Asylum games, they touch on it as well. And probably one of the most notorious is from the Batman animated series, which is the woman who's stuck in the body of a little girl. And the way that episode ends is her realizing how mentally broken she is because of her condition. And just Batman's just sort of like, yeah, I gotta take you to prison. Tough shit, I guess.
Sucks
It-
to suck,
And it's
kiddo.
it's so fucked up because it encapsulates all of the issues that I have with the entire
mean-
franchise.
Batman is a person who uses his trauma as an excuse to beat the shit out of people.
He's got billions of dollars and he just uses it to beat on the poors and the mentally ill. So, okay, so that's I kind of went on a bit long. I'm sorry.
I mean, I have a feeling that it's anything with Batman's gonna bring that stuff up. I feel like you almost can't talk about a singular
You can't.
Batman.
No,
It's almost like money is a bad superpower, but
Yeah,
but
That-
let me
About that
end
with the
my
Iron Man.
I was
let
gonna
me
say,
end my portion so we can move on to somebody else.
yeah. Okay. So, Carnival. What about
So-
your thoughts?
Batman is my dad's favorite superhero, and my entire experience with comic books and everything had been brought up because my dad has always loved comic books and brought me up to this.
your dad's a fucking nerd.
Yes. So there's no way to just continue on from the whole of just this entire franchise. Both of the big two are fucking 80 plus years old and thus have baggage with them that will never go away until they go public domain in 10 years, and then that means a bunch of people can start making their own versions and without license.
And it'll still be terrible.
Yes, but it'll be different ways of terrible. But
Yeah.
And joke's
but-
on you, they're not going public domain because Disney's getting fucking copyright laws extended again for the sake of making
Warner
money.
Brothers, but
No. Disney is going to extend copyright is the thing. They are going
Yeah,
to
they're
get the
gonna-
laws extended again.
They're going to be
Oh.
a secondary beneficiary.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah, because doesn't Warner Brothers own the rights to
DC. Yes.
DC? Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the
but
thing
it's
is-
also always Disney that makes the big copyright.
Yep. And who
But-
knows? In 10 years, Disney will probably have DC as well, and Warner Brothers,
Yeah,
we'll see.
and this
it's
show.
gross. Nah, ha, ha, ha.
But
No.
I love superheroes because, again, superheroes represent of the. I'm gonna. Historians are gonna will argue with me, but I'm gonna say the post 50s era, as the modern oral tradition of storytelling medium. That, yes, they're paper. Go with me on this. Is just that as a kind of archetype of storytelling in America, as much as like the cowboy was created as a modern myth for the United States culture itself, comic books became the just kind of tales to be continually forever and such, as you see through the, again, 80 years and of both Marvel and DC, the hundreds of different writers and artists that each interpretations given characters of just how the just large and bloated but rich tradition of suits in America represents. And I absolutely love it, even if it's filled with problems of just being a giant, massive mess that has gone on for as long as this is not. Like, I always get excited, even with all their issues. I'm always excited, like, oh hey, another Marvel movie, because it's just seeing what other people do with stories that have been around and individual spins on them.
I mean, it's a key piece of Americana, the superhero in comics.
In Carnival, the answer is they'll fumble it as if they're trying to grab a greased up football.
I mean, yes, but it's always fun to see how they try and fail and what they succeed at. So, and this is why I always love the just superheroes, because it's just, yeah, no, let's just lean into the just dumbest ideas we can and hopefully just do it in a way that's like fun and not going to hurt people, which
I don't want
it's
to
going to
character.
fail, but because people are going to always fail at this, but I want to see people try and do better. And when they fail, it's going to be sad and disappointing, but I want to see the attempts made and their slow but continuing progress.
Okay.
What about the movie, though?
Oh, the movie?
What'd you think of the movie?
Okay, I'd like to take a different tack here and discuss the
Also, I
movie.
don't think- 1 second, though. I don't think Carnival answered.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the movie. It's, again, not my favorite. It was fun, but it's like not my favorite Batman. That's the Batman the Animated and the entire Bruce Timm and Paul Dini animated shows that they created.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're putting up Kevin Conroy's Batman, which is really tough to top.
Yeah. Actually, I think that is the one Batman that I've seen that I've enjoyed. Like, actually, like, legitimately enjoyed. Because I've also not seen Batman 66, so I'm not counting that.
And I'd like to seg a little bit here because that's a good bridge. There's something that Kevin Conroy does that no one else has been doing when they portray Batman. Every movie, including this, does a thing where they assume that you came here to see Bruce Wayne. And Bruce Wayne is the main character. And Bruce Wayne pretends to be Batman. Like when he puts on the Batman costume, he puts on a funny voice. This is the first movie that you get the "I'm Batman" joke in, and Christian Bale amped it up to 11. Whereas when Kevin Conroy does it, Batman is the regular voice and Bruce Wayne is the put on. And that's a nuance that shows that the entire idea is Batman's supposed to be crafting this persona that's supposed to be mysterious. And these movies are not scary or mysterious. But I really wanted to consider this movie in a vacuum. And even, like I know you guys are talking about a lot of baggage, but if you consider this movie in a vacuum, this movie has too many characters. It's too long. It's over 2 hours long. It has pacing problems, but still feels like it's overstuffed. The action sequences are terrible. Terribly filmed. No one moves anything. And the biggest action piece is when Batman kills a whole bunch of people using a remote-controlled drone explosive. The dialogue is nonsensical, where people speak in lines like, never rub another man's rhubarb, for the kids. Say like nonsense, like any two sentences aren't the same. And also this movie has Ali Knox in it, the reporter, who I've forgotten about. and exists solely to say 1980s sexist line.
I had to say an argument for like the dialogue is like, yes, but that kind of adds to the comic book feel of just absurd dialogue.
Okay, it's still
They'll see what kind of
garbage.
boners Joker will pull.
I mean, the problem is it's still garbage. It's like I can do a 180 with this. Like the Spider-Man movie doesn't do any of this. The Captain America movie doesn't do any of this. There's been a whole bunch of movies that are comic movies. The Blade movie doesn't do this. There's a whole bunch of
I disagree. Blade does have some.
Blade has a
really bad
it's not
shit.
as okay. It's not as bad as that. At least it's got a 15-minute opening with some action. No, but I mean, like, there's a whole bunch of comic. Road to Perdition doesn't do this, and that's a comic book movie.
But to be fair, that was more straight. That was a straight comic. That wasn't like superhero.
I'm just saying, like, if your excuse is it's supposed to be bad and that's what makes it good, that's a weak justification. It doesn't have to be this terrible.
Knox is absolutely fucking insufferable and exists to make Bruce Wayne, who has no personality, look more tolerable, which is fucking impressive.
No. He exists because I'm only suspecting here. Vicky Vale is supposed to be an investigative reporter, but then I guess the producers decided that people wouldn't answer questions from a woman, so they had to add Knox to ask all the questions. So Vale can literally exist as a sack of potatoes to get kidnapped not once but twice.
Also, I'm gonna echo
fought
Carnival
over Wayne the instant she fucking meets.
that.
So
And
we know he's not gay.
I want to echo Carnival's sentiment there that the writing in this is on par with the writing in Batman comics for the most part.
That
You know,
doesn't make
and I'm not saying it makes it good or makes it bad. I'm just saying it's consistent. And while there
Even-
are definitely some lines that are kind of dumb, like the rhubarb line does feel it just doesn't fit, there are plenty of lines and plenty of scenes that are perfectly fine. It's not as bad as I feel you're making out to be.
Well, we have to disagree here. There's almost every dialogue line in this movie makes no sense, especially next to other stuff. My favorite, you were talking about the world's greatest detective. The only detective work we get in this is when Bruce Wayne comments, his skills appear to be science, chemistry, and art. And that's one that stuck with me because it's like, because chemistry and science, that's important. Because he had to emphasize the words so we would get it at home because this movie thinks we're dumb.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it. If it's supposed to be bad and that's what makes it good, it's still
Okay. Torpo, what are your general thoughts? And is there anything particular you want to bring up?
Man, it sure was a movie that existed.
Good.
I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was good. It was just kind of there. It was a superhero movie, and all the bad ways are. I personally can't fucking stand superhero movies. So, but the problem with this one is Bruce Wayne always sucks. Batman fucking sucks. Batman is a shit hero. It is incredibly uninteresting, and having money as your superpower is not good or fun or interesting. It's just and on top of that, fucking Jack Nicholson stole the show in any scene he was in. Actually had charisma.
definitely.
Yeah. No.
Can I interrupt for a sec? I forgot something. So when this movie came out, Rolling Stone did a big deal, like a feature piece on it, and they talked about some of the stuff that was cut out of the script. There's a scene in the movie where Bruce Wayne puts that plate under his shirt. Spoilers. Puts that plate under his shirt so he can get shot and then fake his own death. In the original script, they're supposed to kidnap Vicky Vale. And in the original script, like, Bruce Wayne changes into Batman and goes after her and rescues her. They cut that scene out of the movie, and that's one of the many mysterious edits where, like, I'm agreeing with Torpid here. It's like, we could have seen Batman rescue someone. We could have seen Batman do something good and stop a crime. But this movie is agreeing with Torpid in the level of, Batman's boring. Who wants to watch Batman fight crime and save people, be a hero? This movie, like, edits all that crap out. And I totally agree. It's like the movie assumes Batman's boring and agrees with Torpid. And then, so Batman never has to do anything. He's just let's just watch Jack Nicholson say silly lines.
Yeah.
No. To be fair, like, Bruce Wayne is not interesting, in my opinion. And also, this committed the cardinal sin of tying the villain the original killing of his parents, which you just don't do. That's not good.
This was the first time that they attempted that as part of Joker's backstory?
It is the first time, yes. Well,
It
the
is bad.
Killing Joke also kind of does the same thing because the Killing
don't
Joke
talk
doesn't
about
involve any
Killing
acid.
Joke.
Yeah,
we-
Killing
Even Alan Moore regrets making the Killing Joke.
Okay, I'm gonna take my stand here. There are two statements that can't stand here. We can't say it's like the comic books, and like it's supposed to be, and we're not going to talk about the comic books. Either
look-
the comic books are relevant or they're not.
I
Okay,
have
but-
never said it's like the comic books. I don't
Also
give a flying fuck
that's
about
true.
the comic books.
Also, rebuttal, there are more comics in the Batman franchise than just the Killing Joke. You can just say, hey, we don't like this one. It's not as good as that. And we could also point out that, hey, the dialogue is actually fairly similar to dialogue like, hey, they're going to see the kind of boners that the Joker can pull. I mean,
Yeah, but I think the problem here is that you're making a blanket statement that you're saying like,
I'm
oh,
not.
well, you're saying that the comic books are bad, and it's like you're saying that of all the 50
No,
years,
that's not
the
what I
40
said. I said that there's dialogue in the
Fucking
comics. that's
regardless,
bad.
I don't give a shit about any of this argument. We're talking about the movie.
That's true. And go on. I'm
Um,
sorry. Go on.
But yeah, so it's just a weird, dumb, goofy. And Jack Nicholson, yeah, steals the scene, but also every time it's some fucking non sequitur bullshit and just is really all over the place. But I do appreciate one of my favorite scenes that really illustrates how little Bruce Wayne means in the overall context of the movie. When at one point, this was actually during the scene that Rafferty mentioned with the plate, the platter that he used to protect himself. At one point, he basically goes, "You want to get crazy? We can get crazy." After he slams a pot, trying to draw attention to himself and just make himself look more imposing, and then just immediately, without missing a beat, the Joker just follows up with a complete nonsense line, leading to him going, "What?" just
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just immediately taken down a peg.
Yeah, exactly.
He never gets a chance to really do anything. But he's never interesting in that movie anyway. And also, like, any sort of action sequence is pure fucking schlock. Like, the bat plane was really stupid. Him gunning down a bunch of people and then flying high up into the air and just sitting before the moon for a second before stalling out the fucking bat plane.
Just so you can see the logo.
And him
Just
killing
so
people.
you can see the fucking logo.
The best part about him killing people was for the long. I forget how long it was, but there was a point where like he never killed people. He didn't use a gun. It was like a part of his code. And here he is just gunning people down, blowing them the fuck up. It's kind of
Yeah.
fucking jarring.
And I gotta like poke you there because that entire stuff is after this movie. It's backlash from this movie. The whole Azrael arc.
Yep.
No, he guns people down. He has chain guns in this.
Yeah. He has rockets and all that.
Yep,
And-
just murders. And the remote controlled drone. Did you guys forget where he drives a
Yeah.
bomb into a factory and blows it up and just
That's
murders
what. Yeah, I
people?
meant. I
Yeah, I
Torben
think
said that. I said that.
Yeah,
That was-
okay.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it's
like-
really good
it's so
when he has the
shocking.
fucking Batmobile run in, armor up, and then just shit bombs out of its fucking axles.
God forbid
Yeah.
we should get an action sequence.
Yeah, I have a note here that just says Batman blows two dudes up. Holy shit! I'm sure there are more, but just in that scene we saw like a couple of people. But no, yeah, it's just fucked up how many people he kills.
I'm pretty sure. Didn't he also just toss some guy off a ledge?
He did.
Yes.
He also caused a massive car pileup.
Yeah.
The movies have never had a code against. That's something people keep talking about. That it's like the light side of the force. It's not a thing.
Yeah. Also, it's like the thing in like it's great though. Oh, Batman never kills people, and especially in those Arkham games in which he might have killed them, but you might as well have at that point.
Yeah. Same with Spider-Man in the Spider-Man games. There, but that's kind of going on another tangent.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all really good. And speaking of to how weird some of the designs are and some of the action is, let's not forget that the Batplane gets shot down by the Joker, who just has a normal ass revolver with a really, really long barrel.
It's really good.
It's
good.
not a
Really
metaphor.
good.
It's not a metaphor. Don't worry about it.
It's true.
Yep,
That he
it's-
pulls out of his crotch.
Also,
Okay.
let's not forget everyone loving the Joker and letting him put this giant parade shit on, despite the fact that he drugged a lot of people and killed them visibly on TV.
Yeah, I mean, no scene follows any other scene.
Yeah.
I know, but you know what? It doesn't make the art scene any less amazing.
Yeah. That
Man.
I mean,
Also, the
I mean-
fucking movie's use of diegetic music is always really good.
Yes.
oh, speaking of music, I feel that we have to mention the fact that Prince did some of the music for this.
Yep, just
Oh
giant,
boy.
giant fucking credit at the start of the movie. Music soundtrack by Prince. I'm just like, oh, okay. That's
you,
it.
you can tell this is 1989 because Prince gets billing over Danny Elfman.
Yep.
Yeah,
Danny
Despite
Elfman-
this being the one that made the big Batman theme.
But that's because the Danny Elfman goes and gets too self-indulgent with the theme, and like he always does in every one of his scores.
yeah.
I know he's an Oingo Boingo prior to this, but wasn't this kind of like when he was starting to like rise in terms of movie soundtracks? Like he wasn't.
Like
He did
it's in the
Beetlejuice.
80s. Like Devo does the music to Thor movies. All the 80s bands do music now. Police did the music to Spyro Reignited.
Well, that's because Stuart Copeland worked on the original games.
Right, but
My point is,
I'm just Danny Elfman pivoted from 80s bands into soundtracks like a lot of people.
my point was more, Prince was. I felt like Prince was a lot more known at the time than Danny Elfman was, because I mean, Oingo Boingo was well known, but I would argue it wasn't as. But anyway, that's
Oh, this put
not
Danny
important.
Yeah, this did put Danny Elfman on the map.
Yeah, that's what I
Everyone
meant.
loves the soundtrack to this. This is when Danny Elfman became Danny Elfman. That's why you guys are talking about how everything is overblown. Like this worked for him. He said, "Yep, that's it. I'm doing this forever now."
And also, this is Tim Burton before he went full Tim Burton. Like that's why I enjoyed it as much as it did, because it was Tim Burton before he just completely went up his own ass.
Also, not to be pedantic, but there is one other movie that he did actually work with Tim Burton on. Was Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which came out in
Yes.
'85.
Yep.
And didn't he also do
better movie.
Beetlejuice?
Probably I did not.
Wasn't Big Adventure the one that had the scene with Twisted Sister?
Probably I know it's the Large March one. I know that at least.
Yeah, seems
Um,
great.
Yeah, Beetlejuice was.
but I can't remember how. Anyway, but the point is, yes, Danny Elfman had not. This was like one of his first big roles. So yeah. So my general impressions of this were.
Wait.
Wait. What?
Corbin has
I
more.
never finished.
Oh,
Y'all just
okay.
keep going on tangents.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, like, further examples of how the action is bad is basically everything that Batman does is basically via his vehicles, and all he ever really does is run away, just whenever he's on foot. And
Well-
it's kind of impressive.
Well, there are two quote, a couple action sequences where Batman stands there and a man shows up and screams at him inarticulately and then runs forward and Batman puts out his fist and the man runs into it and it's knocked out.
That is
happens.
true. You're right.
Yeah.
Once
I mean, that
with the
brought
fist
back
and once with the foot. And it's
that
like
brought
the
back
lamest-
some
brought back some what?
it brought back some trauma with my brother. When we were kids.
Right.
Oh, he ran into my fist, Mom.
I mean, that's part of what I was complaining about. It's like because they made the suit and then they discovered he couldn't move in the suit. And they said, well, why don't we make two different suits, one for close-ups and one for action stuff? And they said, no, that's too hard. We'll just have Batman stand there while let's have a Japanese guy show up and shout vague things. It's the 80s. And just wave swords a lot and just fall over because he can't do action movies. And it was just like, oh, God.
It reminds me of when we were watching something we commented on, like at the very beginning, is after the scene where Jack Nicholson gets dropped into the goop at the beginning. You see Batman throw down the smoke bomb, but then very obviously go upwards, and you can see him move.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes because it's just so ridiculous how that scene was definitely stupid. I'm like, wait, no, you could see him going up, and they're watching him go up with his grappling hook.
Oh, that's what I meant by okay, that's directing. Tim Burton is a director, and also this movie was edited by the same guy who edited Aliens, a good action movie. You could direct or edit that scene different. No, the biggest one is you remember Eckhart the Corrupt Cop.
Yeah.
Okay, so the scene where Eckhart the Corrupt Cop is trundling away like a turtle, and Jack Nicholson says, "Hey, Eckhart!" And Eckhart slowly turns around, and Jack Nicholson says, "Think about the future," and then shoots him dead. So I guess he can't think about the future now. And this is so slow, so painful, and so forced. And it's another example of what Torpid's talking about. The action in this movie is terrible.
Yeah,
It's also, I will say, the set design was incredible. Like, there's a reason that sort of aesthetic really stuck with a lot of later stuff.
yeah. I like just random vents everywhere.
Just the interior scenes are fucking great. What was the who was the main gangster at the start of the film that Nicholson caps?
Grimson, something like that.
Yeah.
Grissom.
Grissom, played by Jack Palance, who I wasn't expecting in this before he won his Oscar for.
Right. So, like, any scene where we're in his office and you just have that beautiful fucking backdrop right behind of like the city and the gargoyles. It's whatever we could say, and whether we agree or not, I feel like, just like Torpid said, we could agree that at the very minimum, the sets are fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that.
I think I've said my piece of the one.
Okay.
It's your turn, Lolo.
Okay. So, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was a Batman movie. I thought Batman was the worst part of it because it's like not only was, at least Batman can do some occasionally, cool stuff. Nope, not in this one. In the Bruce Wayne, I did not really like. I can see that Michael Keaton was doing he was trying to, like, I can see what he was trying to do with Bruce Wayne. The thing is that it also made it kind of boring, which, I mean, it's Bruce Wayne, which he was in. I know that he was intended to be a boring, unassuming character, but problem is they did it too well. I felt that he just kind of was just a dude. Yeah, and just Jack Nicholson just is probably the redeeming thing of this movie. Like, if it was any other actor, well, I wouldn't say any other actor because I'll say this: Jack Nicholson was a very good casting choice. I was looking into some of the alternate ideas for who
God.
to play Joker.
They had some John Lithgow.
David
Robin
Bowie.
Robin Williams was vying hard to get the role.
The thing I would say about Robin Williams is he would definitely do that good, although I do kind of, I would actually, that's just me only of having seen Batman Forever, because I felt like he would be a better Riddler, but that's because my only real associations with the Riddler is the Jim Carrey ones, which I have a feeling is not right.
I
But
think he
yeah,
would've-
To be fair,
Robin
Williams lacks the ability to be menacing like Jack Nicholson.
I don't
So, the one thing about Robin Williams, this is 80s Robin Williams. He's super
Yeah.
on coke the entire time.
Yeah, that's a fair, because if you see him in Insomnia, the remake of the Swedish film, he's really intimidating, even when he's at his most vulnerable. But yeah, 80s coked up Robin Williams, no, not at all.
Although actually, 1 Hour Photo.
Yes,
Yeah, I was
1
gonna
hour
say,
photo.
1 Hour Photo is that.
Yeah, but that's also way later. That's when he was off the coke and all that. So
Just to see Joker say the words Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yes, exactly. Holding the model that he furnished for the movie. That was his fucking thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, my thoughts on the movie were just kind of, it's okay. So yeah, I felt like we've kind of gone into this because, I mean, it's Batman, so it's pretty standard. But Charpo, how'd you feel about this particular movie's cast of characters and the setting? Also, we can go into probably actors in that case, because that also was kind of interesting.
Honestly, the setting was there. I mean, Gotham is usually done dirty, I guess is the best way I put it.
Yeah.
The actual sets were very good. And I really enjoyed sort of the wrought iron, the exposed rivets and all that. That was a really interesting. But like the actual setting is that said, the characters, I've already said my piece about Bruce Wayne. I do think fucking Jack Nicholson sold the Joker real hard, but also could have been better, but was more limited by the script than anything. Because it as Rafferty has said, it was complete. It was kind of all over the place, and like a more coherent Joker, as striking as a lot of the scenes in were. most of the characters, there were a lot of characters, but most of them just either die or just kind of get ignored. But I will say, Vicky Vale fucking sucked in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Oh my god. She existed A, to be all over Batman, B, to get sexually harassed constantly, and C, to be a fucking damsel. Stop.
Yeah, because she was like supposed to be some major photographer and supposed to be like famous and important, and just gets
Yeah,
relegated
she
to
did
trash.
wartime photography,
Yeah,
and then she just kind of gets shit on the entire movie.
Had to make more screen time for Knox.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, this is something that because I mean I'm not super familiar with that era. Wasn't Kim Basinger like an actually known name at that point?
Yep.
Like she was kind of big enough.
Oh yeah, these are all A-listers. Because Michael Keaton had done like multiple Mr. Mom. Kim Basinger was in like, she was considered all sexy in 9.5 weeks. Though she did do My Stepmother as an Alien before this. That's probably down. But she was doing like a lot of the erotic thrillers before that was thing. She was No Mercy, Blind Date, 9.5 weeks. So yeah, she was a big draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she was fucking awful the whole way through. Oh my god. I also the thing about Knox is Knox is fucking terrible. All he does is harass Vicky, and when he isn't doing that, he's being your really nosy, annoying reporter stereotype. Because I think they want Vicky attractive, essentially.
Yeah.
Like she was supposed to be, I guess, eye candy or whatever. And if she was being the nosy reporter, we couldn't have that. So instead, she just fawned us over Batman. Those are really the only characters I have in my head.
Yeah.
Like most of them just kind of get forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, it's just in hindsight, it's more of like, and actually, I don't even know why they had him as this character, but Harvey Dent is in this movie. You know, the character who becomes Two-Face is Billy D. Williams.
Lando Calrissian
Does absolutely nothing.
Yeah, they could have had that be any other character. Also,
well, they were world building. They were setting it up for the whole franchise.
I was going to say they wasted Billy D. Williams.
They
yeah.
did.
Oh yeah, we all agree on that.
Yep. So you're good, Turbo?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So Rafferty.
Well, I already mentioned that there's a tone of the movie where it's being directed by Tim Burton, who Edward Scissorhands, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, those are good movies, and they have comedic pacing. There's a scene in this movie where, oh no, it turns out that the Joker is putting poison in our pharmaceuticals, and it has kind of a Tim Burton style, let's riff on bad TV. But then after that, like when the news reporters show up, they're not wearing any makeup, and you can see all their blemishes and bad hair, as like a side joke. You guys remember that?
Not really.
Yeah, right after the reporting, when it does the close-ups, the reporter guy was in the preview. You can see his zits, and his coworker, her hair is all messed up. You guys didn't even notice that? That's the funniest joke in the movie.
No, not at all.
I think I might have actually checked out at that moment. I was looking at something else.
Well, it's also like an hour and 15 minutes into the movie, because I remember you said like when Joker confronts Grissom is at the 40 freaking minute mark. When it had comedic toning like that, he was pretty good. But like I said, everything else is slow. Because there's something wrong when there's a funny sight gag like that, and you all have checked out and don't notice it. Like what is I can agree. It's everyone agrees the set design is amazing, and they went to the British production company, the same one that did Aliens, and those guys worked really cool and read the comic books and picked out the better bits of it. The Neil Adams era, the Frank Miller era, and all that scary Gothic architecture is all in the movie. It's all on display, and everyone loves the set. So, but the movie itself is filmed like a comedy. There's too many characters. None of you brought up Alicia. Remember Alicia?
No.
So the entire reason why Grissom has Napier iced is because Grissom is stealing Napier's girlfriend, who is Alicia, played by Daria Hall, who you don't remember because, number one, she doesn't get any speaking lines, and number two, she gets her face mauled. So,
I would say she says like 2 lines over the course of the movie, and one's at the very beginning when she was talking with the Joker about cheating,
right,
and then also after she had her face fucking melted.
She has her face melted in the most superficial way because it's a movie. They got to make her ugly, but not too ugly. And then if you're going to use comic book parlance, she gets fridged. So when the Joker says, "Hey, Vicky, I'm here to kidnap you, only I'm going to forget to kidnap you. By the way, I killed my previous girlfriend, and I'm going to laugh about it because I'm mentally disturbed." Ha ha. So yeah, I mean, this movie is tonally dissonant, and like if it's supposed to be set in a world where crime is run rampant, this movie is like nonsensical. Like the Joker, like people commit crimes in this movie. We have somebody tries to mug a tourist. Then we have so the thugs own Axis Chemicals, but another person's going to raid it, but then they're just going to reopen this factory and distribute poison from there, even though the owners were killed in broad daylight. So no one's going to investigate why the smokestacks are still pumping toxicity in the atmosphere. Like no one's going to go look. Commissioner Gordon keeps saying, we have no idea where he is. He couldn't have gone back to that factory that has the lights on. Like no one does any crime in this movie. Batman drives a car and then stops it and gets out and then gets back in. Do you remember that part?
That kind of.
In other words, like the movie is very popular. The movie is it's got that thing. It sets up what a bunch of movies after this are going to do. What The Shadow's going to do after this. What Phantom's going to do about this, and what a bunch of '90s movies do after this. Which is it looks really good on the screen and it's got really big, nice set pieces and looks great in the theater. But nothing follows anything else and makes any sense, and so you don't really get a good sense of setting, and so it's not set in a comic book world because there's no action. It's not a comedy because you guys are missing the jokes. It's not a drama about how haunted Bruce is because his parents come up as a kind of an afterthought. It's not about coping with mental illness because this movie's terrible at it. This movie is just a bunch of sights and images on the screen. It's noted for being a very big budget movie at the time when comic book movies were getting really short shrift. This is the era of Superman 4 and The Punisher and Swamp Thing. So the fact that this got any big treatment at all was big spectacle. But no, if this is, you guys have already played the Batman games, including Arkham Asylum. You can remember a lot more about Arkham Asylum and its plot and story than you.
Doesn't this movie really fucking long, and it just kind of loses the thread after a while.
Yeah, it's like as I mentioned earlier, there's too many characters. Grissom doesn't need to be in this. Knox doesn't need to be. Billy D. Williams is wasted. There's too many characters, and it takes too long and moves too slowly.
Yeah. You good?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Carvel.
I mean, I was gonna say I like the set design, even though it sets an image that was that's better than what was done in later films in regards to the Christopher Nolan trilogy. And I think the better evolution of this is in the recently that came out this year, Birds of Prey movie. But and otherwise, everything's already been said about the character.
Okay. X.
I mean, when I watched it, I enjoyed it. I thought it was paced all right, but I can see how there are definitely wastes. Nobody mentioned one of the other big wastes, who's a major character in the entire franchise, Commissioner Gordon, who gets like very little screen time and does very little, period, played by Pat Hingle. And I only remember Pat Hingle because I like MASH, and he was on an episode of MASH, and I just remember him very distinctly. And again, Billy D. Williams, just completely wasted potential with him. A fantastic actor and a really important character at the franchise as well. So, two major characters just get very little screen time versus Bob, just some throwaway thug that Nicholson just blasts away for no apparent reason. There are issues with the movie. I enjoyed it a lot, but it's not. It would be unfair to say that it's a perfect film, that it's without flaw. I don't think it's as egregious as is being argued here. I think that's a little exaggerated. But there are definite issues with some of the plot, and some of the dialogue as well is definitely out of place. The rhubarb quote makes no sense. I've tried to sit here and think of a way to defend it, and I can't, and that says something because I can defend.
The entire scene is full of non sequiturs.
There is just stuff that doesn't fit. Like, it felt like, as I mentioned before, it felt like they were trying to do a more serious Cesar Romero style Joker, where he still does like goofy shit, but they're trying to also ground it in a reality that doesn't seem to work for some of the gags they're trying to do.
Yeah, Yeah,
I don't
in fact,
think that
wanna second
missing.
you on that because I noticed that when they did the commercial sequence, they did that, and that's weird because if you read reviews about this movie, everyone's saying, "Oh no, it's not the '60s Batman. It doesn't look like it at all." And yet, I agree with you. He looked like he was riffing on Cesar Romero and doing a great job because he's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. The other thing too is I don't feel that missing a single sight gag means that we missed out on a lot, because there's some stuff that I thought was kind of funny. I honestly thought that Michael Keaton's take on Bruce Wayne was definitely a little more interesting than Conroy's. Now, I like Conroy. Conroy does a good job, but Conroy plays the same character on both sides, whereas Keaton, with his take on Bruce Wayne, this is a guy who's very clearly in over his head in a lot of these situations, or at the very minimum, he's pretending to be, because that's where he comes off during a number of these scenes. And then he's supposed to be sort of cunning, but it's not really done super well. I think it's less Keaton and more just the direction that he's given and the material he's given, if that makes sense. But I think what Keaton tried to do with Bruce was a lot more interesting and gave him a little more depth than just, okay, he's got money. He was a doofus. He was a complete doofus as Bruce Wayne. As Batman, I couldn't really say anything because it was the stiffest thing I've seen in the movie. Like his entire performance as Batman is completely stiff, and not just because he can't move.
Sorry, not to interrupt too much.
No.
I just remembered also, it takes like 20 minutes for Bruce Wayne to appear.
Yeah, there is dissonance in this film. There's definite. They're trying to do part comedy. They're trying to do serious. They're trying to do action. I thought some of the action scenes worked really well, but at the same time, watching Batman mow down people and commit like serious crimes when he's supposed to be a vigilante, who's supposed to be stopping crime, didn't make sense. So like my initial viewing was a lot more rosy-eyed, despite the fact that this is probably maybe the second time I've ever seen it, and I'm not a big superhero fan, but I enjoyed it a lot. But now that we're talking about it, I can see some of the cracks, and I definitely agree with some of the criticisms. I don't agree with all of them. As far as the setting goes, it's kind of like it's a little bit more than the Sonic cartoon, but Gotham is there, and Gotham is garbage. Gotham is grimy. Gotham is terrible. It's a suckhole, and I felt like having that be its one and only defining feature was kind of disappointing, because I mean it's supposed to be an analog of New York, and I think New York is a little bit more than just some of the grime holes that unfortunately are there, and Gotham does get a bad shake. And it's just a shame that some of the characters were wasted, especially Gordon and Billy D as Harvey Dent.
Yeah. So, yeah. I thought everyone was okay. I except for the Joker, I liked. Everything else was like, oh, Gotham just looks like imposing city, and all the characters are like, oh, yep, that's who they are. No one really stood out. And yeah, Vicky Vale kind of sucks, or as characterized. And yeah, it just nothing really stood out to me. So yeah, that's just my general take. So it's kind of gotten brought up, so let's just go ahead and have this, because I feel like this was the first time I feel that there was a Batman thing in, I would say, a non-comic format that was actually trying to be the, serious Batman. I think, like, because previously, I mean, the last one was Batman 66, right?
Yeah, that was the only film before this one.
Yeah, so...
Well, there was a movie, not during the cartoons, there also was a movie series in the 40s, which you can look up and has not aged well at all.
No,
I'm guessing it was on par with the Superman series.
No, as in...
Oh no, the Superman series has moments where it's good. No, like we're talking like hella racist.
Yeah, like hella wartime World War II propaganda.
Oh, yeah,
I believe one of the
I
actual
skip
lines is, "Until all the Japanese were rounded up by our wise and benevolent government," is an actual series.
Jesus.
So I'm happy I didn't see that, and I don't think I ever will. Yeah. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, so let's just have, the debate, I guess.
Let's do it.
So serious Batman versus comedic Batman. Which do you prefer? And
Honestly,
actually, I should say also, how do you feel this film portrayed in that?
it tries to straddle that fine line. Like, again, we're watching this in 2020. Okay, so we've kind of got an extra bit of hindsight now that we've got the old school Batman, which was goofy with Adam West as Batman, and then we've got the complete polar opposite with Christian Bale and Heath Ledger in Dark Knight. All right, and I stick with Dark Knight because that for me was kind of like an apex of the entire franchise. And you look at this movie, and Nicholson's performance sits in the direct middle for me. He has the elements of Romero's Joker, the goofiness, the gags, the cards. He names himself after one of the playing cards that he has. He pulls out a gun with an extremely long barrel, and it's not a metaphor for a giant penis. It's just not. Don't worry about it. He shoots down a fucking plane with said gun. But on the other side of it, he is also an evil character. He's doing these terrible things, and there are scenes where he plays it a little more serious while still goofing around. And I think it's an actually pretty good performance. I prefer Ledger's performance more. I think the more serious one was better, but still they somehow managed to pull off a very good balance between the lightheartedness of the 60s Batman, and I guess if we're just looking at directly at time, that they take that and they take it a little more seriously, and I thought that they did a decent job with that. So to answer the question, which I prefer, both, because they both have their own place. The 60s Batman has its own spot, and this Batman has its own spot, and trying to pick one over the other, I couldn't really do.
Okay. What about you, Carnival?
Be no major film that'll ever do the kind of Batman thing that I want, because Batman should play in everything completely serious as him, the character, while the rest of the world just is absolutely gonzo and nonsense, and that Batman should just be seen as this is just reacting to everything as seriously as it's his parents' funeral again, whether it be some star alien that comes and brainwashes people, or it be some just random crook. Batman should react to everything the same way, but they'll never do a major movie that leans into that thing. This movie gets a better idea of what I would like for it, but it's never going to happen in the sense that I want it.
Common, I do have to ask, have you seen Mask of the Phantasm?
No, I just never had a chance.
That was theatrically released.
And that is actually considered probably the best of the animated line.
All right, then I'd have to just.
I would recommend checking it out, as you heard earlier, it's in the top 5.
But yeah, because that's exactly that's granted. Like I said, that's animated. Like I said, but none of the live action. The executives are all cowards. Will never do something like that in a live action film.
No, Phantasm is Conroy and Hamill at their absolute best in regards to those roles in the entire franchise.
But yeah, it's better at what I would want from kind of either or especially specifically Batman or any super property, but it's not there.
Okay. Rafferty.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt there. I'm going to mention, I would say that there's actually 3 Batmen we're talking about. We're talking about the comedy era with Adam West. We're talking about the serious era that goes from Burton to Schumacher to Bale. And we have to talk about the Batman, the animated series, which is, by Dini and Tim, which is a different animal. It takes different casting to it. It's made with a young adult audience in mind, so it's a little different. And but in terms of the movies, the comedy movies, they're really silly, but the actors are all, the actors bring their A games. The Batman movie area, some days you can't get rid of a bomb, is a line that is funnier than anything in the Burton movie. Dance the Devil, Pale Moonlight, what? And the actors actually interact with each other. Burton's movie sets up the Batman that all of you are describing that you hate. You describe him as a rich person who beats up psychopaths. That's not the Batman in the Adam West version. He works with the police and tries to bring people to justice and solve crimes and stop things. Burton is where Batman does interact with criminals. Criminals performing vague sorts of crimes that involve poisoning people. This makes money somehow. Step 3, profit. Or throwing money to idiots in the street while they poison gas them. This is a crime that'll make us money and rich. And that starts the era of Batman shows up in a military vehicle that he acquired somehow and shoots everyone with chain guns. You see this happens again in the Bale movies where he's doing it on his bike and on his Batmobile. You see it in the Snyderverse where he's just murdering people left and right. And all of you, the whole consensus among all of you seems to be that, well, this Batman's not likable. I mean, he's the least interesting part about the movies.
Rafferty, I hate the Adam West Batman. So
well, okay, even if you hate the Adam West Batman, I don't want to defend the Adam West Batman. I'm talking about, like, compare that to the animated series and Arkham Asylum, which is built directly off of the animated series. You literally have Paul Dini writing it, and Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill and a bunch of other voice actors coming back to reprise the roles. That video game franchise, which is the most popular of all the Batman games, not the other gazillion Batman video. I mean, the Nintendo game, is that even a Batman game? Got Firefly in it, I guess. But, like, what I'm getting at here is you're asking me, like, which one if I had to prefer, I'm going to pick the Diniverse over both of them, because in that one, Batman actually interacts with people. You've probably all seen the famous YouTube clip of Batman goes into a park to talk a superheroine down before she dies of brain cancer. Have you guys seen that one? It's kind of mimetic. Yeah, I mean, so Batman can be portrayed as an interesting person to interact with. But the movies, when Batman shows up, the movie is bored of him, and then the audience is bored of him. Just machine guns people and flies up against the sun. It's campy, but he's also dark. Oh, he's so haunted and all this kind of stuff. And then you get Clooney and Kilmer. What are they doing? So really, I mean, I wouldn't pick either of those, because really the one reason why I hate this movie is because it cemented the idea in people's heads that, oh no, Batman's boring. When you go to see a Batman movie, you should not expect anything out of Batman. He's just going to waste your time and be boring, because serious Batman is not an interesting character, which is a thing that still baffles me to this day, where you go see a movie about someone you don't.
I'm going to say real quick, though, the animated series also has the luxury of time.
I'll still throw up Mask of the Phantasm in a vacuum. I'd still think like that.
Never
That's
seen that.
It's that's also animated too. So.
Right, well, but of course that's the problem. Oh, it's animated. Which the comic books, but if we have art like a comic book, we don't see that.
That wasn't what I said. You keep saying stuff that I said that's not what I said.
That's not. I mean, I agree that because you keep saying, well, it's animated.
I said it's animated because it had more time for them to work on it and make it better than the live action films. That's the only point I was trying to make. Yes.
They made the movie they made the animated movie in a year, and they made the live action movie.
They also have the benefit of the time of working on the TV show compared to.
So they made the TV show and the animated movie at the same time, whereas Burton was only working on one movie.
Right, Burton really didn't have the resources that they had when they were doing Mask of the Phantasm and the animated show. They had way more stuff to go off of by the time Mask of the Phantasm came out.
Well, that doesn't explain Batman 2 or Batman Forever, but that's just kind of it is kind of funny where we hear the comment of, well, so that is I realize it is your take. It's animated, therefore it must have taken longer, but actually Mask of the Phantasm was done by 4 different animation units and done in less time than the movie. But moving on from there, basically, yeah, the thing is, if I had to pick one, I don't want to pick this because this is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of Snyder Batman.
Okay. Turbo.
But serious Batman has the problem of it can too easily fall into the fucking edgelord shithole that so much of the more recent Batman stuff has done. Funny Batman suck. Though I will say the best intersection of the two has been Batman the Brave and the Bold.
Yes, absolutely.
Which was an animated series that kind of just embraced all that was Batman.
Peter Beer is awesome.
Yeah. No. Highly recommend folks check out Batman the Brave and the Bold if you're at all interested. Because it sort of married together a bunch of different aspects of Batman, especially like older, like Silver Age stuff. It was basically a love letter to Batman, and it was really good. And once again, it was this really good intersection of both serious and funny Batman. And I thought it worked really. That said, I do feel the animated series did Batman pretty well too. It did the serious Batman right, but I feel like part of that's also because it had the limits put upon it by the production companies and the channels they aired on to sort of wear away at the edge that the movies would not actually have. So it would keep it quite from going down that hole. That said, it also had what I meant when I said the luxury of time is it had a number of episodes to expand upon the Batman character and really build him and his cast of villains and companions.
Yeah, because I mean, literally, they got the directors of Team of Four to do it. So yeah, I can see what you're talking about. They already had some stride. Whereas
that's exactly
this is Burton.
That's exactly what I was getting at.
Is Uncharted. Well, right, but that's not going to explain the later movies.
Okay, but when we're talking about this, we're talking about Mask of
But
Phantasm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of what I meant though. Yeah. So I would say the intersection is generally better, but if I had to pick, I would say serious, but not serious. Because once again, it's Batman as a character and also his entire rogues gallery has this issue of being like too close to the edge, in part because Frank Miller cursed the entire series.
Just a lot of things.
No, I'm just going to turn around and say, no, Burton cursed it. This movie is where all of it goes downhill.
But didn't you say earlier that this movie took notes from Miller's work? So then technically Torpid would...
Well, the point is
it's probably a combination of the two.
It's a combination. It's sort of like after, like Miller makes a Dark Knight Returns, which by the way is a limited series that's apart from the regulars. The regular series keeps going without him. But when this movie comes out with, oh yeah, no, Batman it hunts down every villain is psychotic and thus must be punished for being psychotic. And Batman uses chain guns and military hardware to shoot everyone. Like that entire dark aesthetic of we can't make any jokes now, which is weird because the Burton movie does crack jokes. But if you read all the press, they say, oh no, this isn't. The press at the time says this isn't the 60s Batman. Batman's all serious now, even though we watched the movie and you would agree, Keaton's actually a little lighter than I remember. He cracks wise, like, you don't weigh you weigh more. He's a little looser than this. But this movie, for better or worse, everyone said, oh yeah, the set design in this is dark and people get killed. Batman, it's okay to kill. Like everything follows after this. Shoemaker's ideas, Snyder's ideas, the where does he get those wonderful toys? All of that snowballs from this movie.
Okay.
I still stand by though Miller being responsible for super serious Batman and all the fucking baggage that comes with it.
Well, you got to read the Neil Adams run.
Regardless, though, yeah, it's how I feel.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, that's sort of in the 60s when the television show came out, the comic guys got mad at it, and so the slide starts early in the 70s. That's when Batman becomes as ugly as you guys are talking about.
Okay, but I'm not refuting this. But I do appreciate that Miller gave us Yellow Batman.
Would you like some Yellow Man? Yep.
Would you like some lemonade?
Anyway.
Powerful words to say to a Green Lantern.
So, we've brought up the fact that Tim Burton did this movie multiple times. He has gone on to have a very distinct style. Well, kind of had it to begin with, but it probably didn't bloom until much later. So, Torpa, how'd you feel about Tim Burton doing this movie? Or how do you feel like how he did this movie, which I feel like we've already talked about?
I mean, Tim Burton really, his style is shown through with the treatment of how Jack Nicholson played out, but otherwise, it's less overtly his than a lot of his later works would become. They start more or less huffing his own view. Otherwise, I don't like Burton as a person, huge on his works, but there you go.
Okay. Rafferty.
I already mentioned that the pacing is terrible. There's a scene early in the movie where Bruce Wayne's having dinner with Vicky Vale. When they go to the Bruce Wayne party and like Bruce Wayne shows up, introduces himself, Knox leaves, thank God. He has dinner with Vicky Vale and they go to the kitchen and then Alfred gets a few lines. All of that hinted, wow, we could be watching a good movie where people speak in English sentences that follow one another and actually interact with each other. And that shining moment showed that Burton is a good director who could put people around. Then we go back into, I mean, I don't know if we can blame the script on him because it seems to be written by, like I said, like cutting up a script and piecing it together. The action sequences are just terrible. There's all this stuff where Batman, like you guys joked earlier, where Batman, in the slowest possible move, throws a capsule on the ground, it billows with smoke, and he slowly rises away. And it's like, that's not an action bit, that's a comedy bit. You guys are laughing at that. If that was in a Pee Wee Herman movie, the Pee Wee Herman movie, it would be funny and slow and have pacing. Burton is just a terrible choice for this because every action sequence in this, it's an action movie that has terrible action sequence in it. So And Burton can direct action because Sleepy Hollow is genuinely scary. So there's just no punch. He seems to be sleepwalking through this. The set, everyone looks at the set design and identifies that, but I'm convinced it's the other way around. I think Burton showed up, the English guys showed him how to make a dark movie with some of his stuff, and this movie molded Burton into Burton, where he decided, oh, I'm the creepy kooky guy now. I did Beetlejuice, so I'm gonna do creepy and kooky. In fact, yeah, even Beetlejuice is better action sequence. What the hell? So yeah, I don't know. This is just terrible, and I don't know what Burton was thinking.
Okay. Carnival.
I like that either Burton didn't there seemed to be a bit more over Burton doing the overt Burton stuff that would come later, and the movie's better for it. Some of the just idiosyncrasy, for lack of time for a on him, aren't great, and thus keeping them out of it.
Okay. Max.
I want to digress just briefly because there was a point that I forgot to make. It's not an important point, but there were times in the movie where Kim Basinger kind of looked like Claudia Jacobs from Space Mutiny, and I just thought that was funny, and I just noticed that in my notes, so I kind of wanted to just mention that. Huh. But I have misgivings about Tim Burton. I think he's very I don't like using this word because it can be it's kind of lazy to use this word. But at the same time, I think it kind of fits Burton. He's hacky. He's very much a one-note kind of person. He's very much like Tarantino. They have their bit and they stick to it. They don't diverge from it. Burton does his gothic, dark, grim, with just the slightest bit of humor to it kind of style. You saw it in Beetlejuice. You see it in Batman. You got it in Nightmare Before Christmas, Frankenweenie. Edward Scissorhands. Everything has this sort of feel to it that's very Tim Burton-esque, and it's so overdone. And again, we're watching this in 2020, so we've got a lot of his catalog to look at. At the time, this was fresh and new, but this is where you definitely see his signature start to take hold, and he doesn't let go of it for the rest of his career. And it's very annoying. I don't think again, my favorite Batman film happens to be Dark Knight. I think it's absolutely the best adaptation of live action for it, whereas the animated best adaptation is Mask of the Phantasm and animated series. I'll probably check out Brave and the Bold when I get time. But no, Tim Burton I don't think was a very good choice. The only good choices that was that the set pieces were good and Nicholson kicked ass. Outside of that, Tim Burton just had a little too much influence, and I think it kind of affects it in a negative way for me.
Okay. So
also, real quick, I will say once more, this has been said a few times, but the movie was way too fucking.
2 hours.
Way too fucking. It was 2 hours crammed full of shit, but so much of it wasn't relevant or just all over the place, and it was kind of frustrating. I'm gonna level with you. I fell asleep at the end of the movie.
Yep.
At one point I had to step away for like half an hour, and I felt like I missed nothing. That
Also-
is the kind of movie I saw.
Also, I have a nitpick. When Nicholson grabs the rope ladder for the helicopter and Keaton wraps the rope around his leg, they could have just flown the helicopter back over the thing and let him fall off back on it, and he would have been fine.
yeah, but that's smart.
And that pisses me off. That pisses me off so much.
You can't do smart things in an superhero movie, or else the movie would not.
Like
No, see, this is what I'm talking about. You're saying the movie's not supposed to be smart; it's supposed to be stupid. And I don't think that's a fair
I
assessment.
didn't
I
say
was-
that.
I was more going along the lines of just the fact that it's not. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I did want to bring. There is a signature Burton moment I forgot about. Everyone remembers the mirror scene because it's been buried so many times, where he says "mirror," and then he smashes the mirror and gives a big long speech and laughs. That's a great scene. But Torpid was probably asleep because it doesn't show up until the 45-minute mark.
I told you, I fell asleep at the very end. All
Right,
I missed
well-
was the helicopter.
Okay, but yeah,
So
but
the
it's
hour
like
and 45 minutes.
that's how long the movie is. It's kind of like there are these great scenes, but no one remembers. Hey, let's have. It takes so long to get there.
Also, I just wanted to point out the writer of this movie, which is Sam Hamm. His most prominent works are Batman and Batman Returns. I like the fact that on his IMDb, his known for is Batman, Batman Returns, um, the street, the Street of Fruiting Bodies, and Batman Returns, the Genesis game. Which is funny considering apparently he also wrote Monkey Bone. Which
Monkey
is-
Bone, which is the worst Tim Burton movie Tim Burton never made.
Anyway,
Is there a Monkey Bone game?
no, thank God. No, so maybe I am probably going to abstain from asking this because I haven't really watched a lot of Tim Burton movies, so I really don't. No, I just figured I know that more people watch more of his stuff. I just find his stuff to be, not my thing. But yeah. So I think that's enough talking about this particular movie. So let's go ahead and rank this. So we are going to rank this in our usual style. We have a 1 to 21 scale, which 1 being considered absolute mastercraft, and 21 being absolute dreck, not even ironically fun to watch. So we are going to put this in our list. So each one of you is going to give me a number ranking, starting with X.
So, transparency. When I watched it on my own, I was going to actually rank it pretty high. After our discussion and giving it a lot more thought, I actually kind of want to put it more towards the center, somewhere around like 11 to 13. Is where I feel most comfortable with.
Okay, so 11 to 13.
Yeah.
Okay. Carnival.
I enjoyed it, but I've already said I'm a superhero fan, so I'm an audience going into it that's a favorable audience.
Real quick, Lolo, could you read off what's from 10 to 12?
Like in terms of like what we have in this list already.
Yes.
Okay, so let me see. Well, that's great because neither one of them really okay, here. Actually, I should probably actually sort this. So because we have 2 lists, we have the ones that have games based on movies and movies based on games, blah blah blah. In the game one, at 10 we have Wizardry, the OVA. And at 11 we have Adventures of Lola the Penguin. We do not. The next thing on the games list is Salamander at 15. If we look at the other movie list, we have 11, which is Little Nemo, Adventures of Slumberland, and then 21 in Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga. So we have kind of an area that we need to fill.
Yeah, I'm just saying, keep that in mind when ranking is the numbers that we already have.
So Rafferty.
Actually, after this discussion and watching the movie again, I'm gonna rate it a little higher than I normally would. I'm gonna go with 17.
Okay.
I mean,
Purple.
it has a good score. It's a signature movie that everybody remembers. I think the actors actually gave a better performance than I remember. Sadly, Knox is in the movie, who I forgot about. But it's this thing where you guys no one enjoys watching it. It's long, it's slow, and the signature bits you want to fast forward to them.
Torpo.
I was gonna say like 13.
Okay. So it seems like our range is between, for most of us, being 11 to 14, with Rafferty being 17.
Rafferty is an outlier and should not be counted.
Well, no, because I'm just kind of looking at this. I do kind of feel like it probably will be like, I do kind of think of like, especially like Access, I do think low, like 13 sounds about right, because it was kind of, for the most part, a little less than average. So I do feel like that 13-14 range is probably actually a good spot for it. I don't know if it's quite like, I would say it's a better quality because we were comparing it to like Salamander. I feel like it's a better production than that. But
The money is on display.
yes, but maybe also not as much better than that. Actually, much like Salamander, you'd figure that that's a thing that's very action packed. Much like this movie is not. So I would say, because let me just take a look at my kind of bare bones. So 14 is right in the middle because this is a rainbow scale. It's right in the middle of the yellow. And the specific phrasing that I have for it is kind of meh. which actually I feel is actually a really good description of this
Right.
movie.
Now, see, like I'm kind of an outlier here because I've heard you folks say there were things with this movie that made you angry. You don't like some Axe doesn't like the way it portrays mental illness. Torpid and Lolo don't like superhero as a genre. I mean, I'm not saying you're angry about that. I'm angry about the portrayals of women in where they're sacks of flour who exist only to either get kidnapped or have sex. And I'm angry at the action sequences that are, boring and badly scripted. And also, I'm angry that this movie set the entire template. That's why I'm rating it this low, because I can understand if you were just kind of bored by it, but I'm bored and there's things that I didn't like in the
On my end, I wasn't bored by the film. I have my misgivings about it and I have my criticisms, but I still enjoyed it. And I know Carnival also said they enjoyed the film.
Okay, that would be a
being
reason to rate it
comic.
higher, yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing also with a lot of that is because also a lot of that is like, especially my superhero thing, that is super mirror. Like, if you think about it, I don't like superheroes. So if I thought it was okay, then I guess that in a weird way that actually would kind of elevate
It's
it.
positive, yeah.
I was
Uh,
gonna say, like, for my case, it's me taking a step outside of myself for a hot second.
Yeah. So, and also, like, yeah, like for a superhero movie, I thought it was like, it is one of the more enjoyable superhero ones that I have seen. Like like I said, my only viewing of Batman stuff is really Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, which granted, though that is a incredibly low bar for me to step over, but still.
That's really weird that you've seen those, because no one likes those movies.
Yeah.
I know, but I was an idiot child.
Also, and not to get into an argument, but I thought it was interesting that you mentioned the Joel Schumacher films as being more serious, when they could have been anything but serious. Those were like just the worst kind of camp.
Yeah, it's not.
Nice to see you.
Okay. Let me make an exception. Arnold and his puns are always good. That's just law, and you can't fight that. So like, he's the one saving point of that. But yeah,
Huge. Batman Robin were the worst of those films.
You know what's
Carnival.
killed off the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
Carnival.
That's not even a pun.
you should chill out.
I'm putting that as 14 so we can stop. Yeah, also because I think we need some stuff that's in the lower tier. Yeah, so Batman 1989 is now in 14. I'll put in the number later, and by putting the number later, I mean I'll forget about it, and I'll say, oh hey, I need to put number in, and then forget about it again. So is there anything that we want to call out regarding music, charm, cinematography, storyline, action, and art?
The sets, would that be cinematography or would that be in
That'd be art.
Yeah, I'd say that'd be
Okay.
art.
then art and score get up and everything else really doesn't.
I
I'd say the
would-
only charm comes from Jack Nicholson, really.
Definitely, like, thumbs down on the action. Like, the big
Yeah.
action sequence at the end. Bad guys are literally throwing themselves at Batman and falling off the tower. One guy jumps at him and falls through a hole in.
Yeah,
Movie is very much it's very much like a Silver Age kind of film, in a way.
yeah, I can kind of see that.
Also, how did people not know who Bruce was?
That's literally like the same
No,
way
no, but
everyone.
Bruce. They didn't know who Bruce himself was.
Oh wait,
He
right.
has
Right.
They open his
Yeah.
file and say, here's an empty file. Well, he's a billionaire, but he has an empty file. It's a bad movie.
Let's see. Yeas or nays? I can definitely think of one nay. We've mentioned a
guess.
lot.
Let me guess. Length.
Yes, exactly. Length.
Is there
Like-
a refrigerator emoji?
I think there is, but
I don't feel like that
That
was important enough to note, though.
yeah, that's
This kind of is a woman. Women have no useful function in this except as foils or to get horribly killed and abused and murdered.
Yep.
the only thing I would say about this, and it's one of those things that I wish I didn't have to say. But if we were going to put that for every specific instance of that, I would have to add an
Okay,
additional slot.
I just brought it up because it's a comic book movie or originated with comics because
Should we hit this with a yikes just for the whole thing, that, and also the mental illness stuff?
I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
this movie
Um,
certainly doesn't play it up as much as the Bales do.
Yeah.
Other than that, I noticed that or mentioned that there was some pacing issues. so I can kind of put the slug there.
Yeah, it is slow. The whole scene with the Axis Chemical fight where he gets transformed, that's so slow.
Yeah.
No wonder you're getting Space Mutiny.
Well, no, she legit looks like the one blonde-haired lieutenant from Space Mutiny at certain points. Like, I actually had to go on IMDb and make sure they weren't the exact same actress.
Well, they have the same kind of hair because this is like the tail end of the 80s. So yeah, I can see that.
I'm
Sure.
also mad now that I know a name of another actress or a person who acted in Space Mutiny. I didn't need that information, but now I have that, and I'm angry.
Also, it's great because you mentioning that, that reminds me of you mentioning that you recognize the guy who played Commissioner Gordon from an episode of MASH.
Yes,
I recognized him from an episode of Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah. He played I forget the character's name, but he played a friend of Colonel Potter's. It was Daniel Webster Tucker who helps him play a huge prank on the entire 477th. Yeah.
I just remember that there is a MASH game, but that's
Yes.
beside the point. That is much later on. Also, one thing we have mentioned, because we have done it, we did also play the Batman animated series game.
Yes.
So theoretically, we could take a look at that at some point.
Yes.
Mask of the Phantasm. Yeah.
Well, also,
And the show.
and the
But
show.
Mask of the Phantasm.
So yeah, that was Batman 1989. So before we move on, Axe, is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I've got a Twitch, twitch.tv/AxeImmortal. That's AXAMORETL.
Okay, Carnival.
You can follow me at Actual Play Podcast that I run along with a Sarah Peep episode, Daft Dice Pod on Twitter, and is Daft Dice.
All right, Rafferty.
I work for sanguinegames.com, and until July 31st, speaking of comic books, Matt Howarth and the Myriad Song Collective, we made a series of comic books and a role-playing game based off of 1980s sci-fi comics like Guardians of the Galaxy and that sort of thing. And until July 31st, you can download the game and the comic for free from drivethrurpg.com. It is the Myriad Unbound set. Look for that, and you get a whole tabletop role-playing game and the comic book for free. This is just about a small happiness we can give you in these trying times.
All right, Torpo.
Twitch.tv/TorpidTypist and at TorpidTypist on Twitter. And I would like to plug The Whole Shot on Me by the Batplane.
All right, so I forgot what the next episode is. Yes.
Yes.
So, next episode, we are going to shift gears a little bit, because we are returning to Anime Land, with
Hell yeah,
a
we
very anime game. So next week we'll start a 2-part episode in which we talk about, I guess technically it was an OVA, but we are going to be talking about Ys.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Which will be interesting because it is something a little bit different than the video game stuff we've covered. So yeah, tune into that one. So with that, thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of Media Delta. If you would like to view the entire list of rankings for yourself, you can go to r3.ldp.life to see the Resonance and Essence list that Media Delta covers, as well as the other lists that are covered by our sister show, Retro Rank Rhapsody. If you'd like to watch Retro Rank Rhapsody, you can watch it live on Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Twitch at twitch.tv/loadofpuzzler. Or you can view any of the episodes anytime at youtube.ldp.life. If you would like to help with hosting costs, you can go to patreon.ldp.life and help out with a $2 or $5 pledge. If you would like to discuss this episode and any other episode of our community, you can join our Discord server at discord.ldp.life. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can follow it at Hazeltown Story, or you can follow me, your host, at LoloDePuzzlo. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come back for a round for the next episode.